Boom, boom, boom.
Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
I'm Janelle Pizarro.
And I'm Frederick Philip von Weiss. And thank you for consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation with the people behind the technology that love what they do.
They do tech good.
Ha! Boom! This is where it's at. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again. Really appreciate you watching the show. If you like us, please go to the old YouTube, subscribe. Go to the iTunes, subscribe, leave us a review. That'd be super cool. And let's go ahead and read a review that we have had or received, whatever, recently. Janelle, want to take the review away?
Yes. Okay. So
I'm articulate.
So articulate. So we've got a really sweet and fantastic review from Autumn because she loves us. It's called One of a Kind Fun and Learning. I love this podcast, and I'm not just saying that because I've been a guest on it twice. I'm saying that because the show is truly unique. I love listening to accomplished tech and marketing folk talk about ish that drives them other than the job. The hosts are hilarious and smart and sharp. Yes. And did I mention funny? Also, I've been on the show twice, so go check it out. Love you, Autumn. You're amazing. We're going to talk about RuPaul today. So, hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Oh, thank you so much, Autumn. Super appreciate it. You're a little bit better than the best. And let's go ahead and we have a sponsor for this episode, and that sponsor is Pantheon at pantheon.io. Pantheon makes it easy to keep your site updated and manageable. It has a Git-based workflow with a dev, test, and live environment. You can easily add team members and deploy code between your environments. Pantheon has fast page speeds. It's for Drupal 7, 8, and WordPress. It has a global CDN, and they have high-performance caching, 40 global POPs everywhere. They give free HTTPS. They even have a soft-serve ice cream machine on Saturdays. Go to pantheon.io. Visit those guys. Get sprinkles on there. Thank you so much, Pantheon.
Now I want soft-serve ice cream.
I know. We got to go to Pantheon now, right?
Go to pantheon.io. Get your soft-serve on, son.
And the last of our announcements and sponsors and everything is we're going to be at an event apart in Orlando, which is super exciting. What month? It's October, right?
October 8th, 9th, and 10th in O-Town.
And we'll be interviewing some speakers as well as talking to guests at the conference. And we have an awesome deal for our listeners. You can get $100 off any 2 or 3 day pass.
What's the code, Brian? What's the code?
You want the code? It's AEA Nerds. That's AEA Nerds.
Tell your friends.
An event apart nerds?
Exactly. Yes.
Easy to remember. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we're so honored. Thank you so much for having us in Event Apart. That's really going to be amazing. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and welcome our guest. We have an amazing guest tonight. I'm super excited. We all are excited to talk to her. She is community and support at CodePen, Marie Mosley. Welcome.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Yay.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. You know, every time I hear your last name, I think about Downton Abbey and Karsten saying, Mr. Mosley.
Oh, no.
I did not think about it. Why would you do that to her?
Why would you own me like that, like 10 seconds into the show?
I have an affinity for Downton Abbey, and it's supporting me.
Okay, but Mr. Mosley was the under butler. Come on.
Dang.
I think Mr. Mosley was a pretty good character. If you watched to the end, he really
I know. He was solid. He was solid.
He's a good guy, Mr. Mosley. Team Mosley.
Yes.
Team Mosley. So how's it going?
Oh, it's going very good.
Yeah?
Yeah, just another day in the pen mines.
The pen mines? Is that what you guys call it around the old office?
Not at all.
Around the water cooler? Another day at the pen mines, guys.
Nah. Pen factory is what we actually call it. That's the official name.
I like that. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So where are you joining us from today? I assume it's in the United States.
Yeah, I'm in the U.S. I'm in Northern Virginia. I'm a little bit south of D.C.
Ooh, Ooh, that's
Yeah.
cool. You ever get up there, watch some shows? Go
Yes,
see some
I do.
Jawbox play and all that? I think.
Well, not Java Box, no, not in a while. But I go up to the 9:30 sometimes and see a show. So yeah, it's actually, I mean, DC is a great town to see shows.
Oh,
All
yeah.
the good bands come through. So
Great food too.
yes,
I'm all about the food.
It is a good town, that's damn sure.
What is with people traveling? This sounds amazing. I want to do this.
Traveling is cool. I do recommend it.
I like to travel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I'm like totally.
That was an intense conversation.
We're very
we can end the
sensitive.
show there.
Marie,
That's
speaking of
That's what
traveling
podcasting's about.
and taking a journey, segue,
Mhm.
you have made a very interesting travel going from Code It Pretty to CodePen, and you were the first ever employee at CodePen, correct?
Yeah, technically I'm the first hire. That's just a paperwork technicality, though. Really, they were going to be hiring Rachel Smith first, but she's an Australian citizen, so there was like a little bit more work to do there.
Well, she's number 2 now. You're number 1.
Technically, but I don't know. I think everyone agrees that Rach is number 1. But yeah, I'm the first on the books. So and I came in to do support and community, like I've been doing for now almost 3 years. I joined up, I think in September of 2015. So I've been there almost 3 years now.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How did that progression look like from Code It Pretty? Did that prepare you for this kind of position? I mean, it looks like you helped out so many people within that span of that blog.
I did. That was a fun time. So that was back when I was freelancing, and back then, most of what I did was like blog customization for people who were doing like wedding blogs and lifestyle blogs and things like that. And that was honestly, it was a great community to work with because it was mostly female entrepreneurs just like getting themselves out there, and like one of the early blogging waves, so I was helping people out with, I did a lot of stuff with Blogger, like Google's Blogger platform. I did a ton of stuff with that. I did stuff with WordPress and things like that. And that was, it was a fun time. It was a creative time for me. And I learned a ton about front-end development. And actually I was using CodePen. Like I remember when embeds came out for the first time, and I was like, yes, I'm going to put these in my tutorials, and I could like show off how the code works, like step by step and all that. So I had actually been using CodePen for a while, and I was listening to their podcast, and just like a person that used CodePen and just into CodePen. And then Chris Coyer put up a job post for CSS tricks on the CodePen job board, and I was like, I do write a lot about code. Let me give it a try. And I just reached out and I was like, I'd like to work at CSS tricks. That would be cool. And, I showed him stuff that I'd done on Code It Pretty and stuff like that. And I started working there. And then about a year into that, they got funding at CodePen, and they were like, they're going to start hiring. And so I said, hey, like, I'd really like to join up. I'd like to, do the support role that you guys are talking about needing to fill. And so that's the rest is history. I've been at it ever since. So it was just a progression of writing and writing and writing a lot about code, practicing and learning more about code, and then, moving forward.
Do you ever think about going back to Code It Pretty and bring that back up from 2015, or is that something that's in your past?
Probably that's over.
Yeah.
It was fun. I learned a ton, but it didn't, it wasn't, it's tough, like promoting yourself all the time, and I felt like I was like kind of having to be like a brand as a person, and I didn't really like that. Like I kind of like being part of a group and part of a collective and like speaking for the group and working with other people. Really, like freelancing for me was difficult because I had to be the whole shebang. Every little bit of it was all me. So
the person doing the work, person getting the work. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I think that I have skills that work best in a team, and I feel very comfortable as part of a team now. So, I think, team life, small team life is my thing.
Just like you said in I think one of your last blogs entries, you said, kill your darlings. And that's, I certainly think you're taking that advice.
Yeah. You don't want to be too precious about your work. That my point there was just like, you could have something that you work on a long time. You can have something that you really, really value. And it's just not doing anything for you, and it's not like the right thing for you, and you just have to be prepared to walk away from it if it's not serving you, in every way. So yeah, team life.
Was it hard to kind of transition to supporting, blogs and things of that nature to supporting like developers?
It's a very different group of people that I'm supporting now. Like I said before, I was, the bulk of my clients were women, and they were not technical folks. So I was actually kind of holding their hand through technical topics and like showing them the very basics of things. And the attitude there is a little different than, working with people who are professional developers. And, I'll tell you one thing, like professional developers don't want to hear that they've made a mistake, like ever. They're not very accepting of that.
Ego.
Well, yeah. And so you kind of have to come up with ways to communicate that in the way that's the least harmful to their self-esteem, I guess would be the way to put it. And, I've developed techniques and patterns for that, over time. But yeah, it's a very different set of skills that I've developed for this. But, some things of customer support, customer service, they're constant across anything. If someone is parting with money, you have like certain things that you do no matter what you're selling them. So, the skills from all over the working world can transfer into a tech career, is my opinion.
What I love about CodePen is it's kind of like Dribbble for developers, but it actually takes it to the point that I feel that Dribbble fails at, where you see in CodePen the messy part. There's so much more messy on CodePen than you'll ever see on Dribbble. You see like the in between. You can even watch people. There's so many people that do live streams of their CodePens, like the keyframers.
Keyframers, yes.
Yeah, great example.
So I love it.
Keyframers are like Olympic level, though. They're like, the stuff that they do, I can't believe it. But I love to see. Mm-hmm. I love to see like people's like steps and stages through the process. I love it when it's messy and it's just like there's a comment that's like, "This is a disaster, but it works, doesn't it?" And you look and it's like, "Yeah, it works. You're right." That is the fun part of CodePen. You kind of see the people hashing it out. Like you see the progression of someone working through front end development. I, especially because I'm right up in front of, all of the new stuff coming in. I love it when I get to see somebody like start up and, kind of thrash through some courses or take on one of the challenges and kind of try to work their way through it. And then just eventually like they'll hit the point where they're like, "Oh, I get it now." And then they're making like their own things and they're trying out new stuff. And I see them branch out into, maybe trying a new library or trying a new design tactic or something like that. Man, it is so much fun. And we have like these like cohorts of people that come through CodePen who like, they're almost like the class of 2017 and the class of 2018, like the people who just get started. I think a lot of people like make a New Year's resolution to get started on CodePen. And so they'll like start up in January. And then by the end of the year, it's like, whoa, look at what they've accomplished. Look at what they've done,
365 pens later. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's really great to see people's progression. And it's been, an absolute joy for me. I do a lot of the picking, probably like 70% of the picking, I guess, on CodePen. And, I put together the Spark and all of that stuff. And it's so fun to boost people up,
Nice job on those. I always look forward to getting them in my email box. It's
I'm so glad to hear that.
One of the few things that arrives in the mail, I'm not like, delete.
Oh, I know, right?
Exactly.
Already for the filter.
Right.
Sorry.
Before we move on to our actual topic, though, I want to talk about CodePen Radio because I love CodePen Radio. I've been ever since it started out. I've been listening. It was in the early days. It's kind of interesting because it transitioned from being like, "Hey, we're building in it," to like, "Hey, this is what's like existing and dealing with all of the ins and outs and growing." And like, what has your experience been like jumping in? Because you kind of like. You weren't involved in it initially, and then suddenly you're like now you're running it essentially. It seems that way. Anyway.
Yeah, I do. I put together the show and I host it. I guess like half the time at this point I host it.
Yeah.
So when I first came on, I had been listening to the show since it came out, maybe, possibly. And I always had ideas for the show. Like I would put stuff up at the time it was just a GitHub like wiki page where they would just write down ideas, and I was constantly like putting up ideas. And then Chris was like, would you like to like, run this? Would you like to do this? And I was like, okay. So like you hear like the first couple episodes where I'm hosting it, and it was like, I mean, honest to God, I was upstairs, like just like saying, "Hey everybody, it's time for CodePen Radio," like over and over, like trying not to sound like Mickey Mouse, because I was like super nervous, But and so at the very beginning, I mean, I've never listened to those early shows because I'm honestly just afraid to even hear it.
You really never went back to listen to them?
No.
Don't worry, we've listened.
So it's taken.
We'll put a link in the show notes, everybody.
I think that I've been like on the show a lot for like 2 years at this point, and I have only just recently, like in the last 6 months, started listening back to shows that I was on. And here's how I managed to do it. I started listening to the show really sped up, so I could barely recognize my own voice. And then I'm
Maybe
like, okay.
You will sound like Mickey Mouse.
Right? No, I know. So the consequence is that my laugh sounds like a little chipmunk laugh. So I just have to cope with that. But I will listen to it now. But it has to be super sped up. And then I can listen, and then I can kind of critique myself and think, okay, like I did okay on that one, or here's what I need to do next time, or whatever. So I am actually growing as a podcaster. It's no joke. This is hard.
Yeah, definitely have noticed from like when you first started running it to you're much more like pro sounding as opposed to like nervous about running it. And I've noticed it in our show as well. Like when I first started out, it was hard for me to talk, and I don't know, Janelle feels she's somewhat fresh still, and Frederick, he's like an expert now, like his little medal behind him.
Yeah, and I actually went to school for radio broadcasting, so it's
really?
kind of like, yeah.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's like, it's weird because like, we do live podcasts, and I'm like, I'm gonna shut up now. I'm just gonna be quiet.
Speaking of which, you have a question, don't you?
Do I?
You do.
Oh, okay, sure.
All right, what is it?
So I feel like maybe we should kind of get into the crux of what we're kind of here to talk about with you, if you're cool with that.
Yes.
So I want to know kind of like let's talk about like code, if that's cool.
Yeah.
HTML and CSS is like, kind of a lot of people I feel like look down on it at times, and I feel like CodePen kind of celebrates HTML and CSS only codes. Like again, like you can see that with the keyframers, which we've already mentioned like a bajillion times today, but yeah, like how they just do like HTML and CSS only like beautiful things, and it's all really kind of brought to you by CodePen, right? And I just kind of want to know your perspective on whether you think that's kind of like, why does it seem like there's a stereotype that those are kind of inferior?
I've wondered about that a lot. Honestly, I think the reason why people look down on HTML is because it's so fundamental that it almost seems effortless. If I think that if you can learn punctuation and grammar well, you can learn HTML in like a couple of days. The fundamentals of HTML to the point where you could put up something, and I think because of that, people don't have a respect for truly understanding it, like really understanding like every element of HTML. It takes work. It takes concentration and understanding, CSS, people who look down on CSS probably just got really frustrated with it and stopped trying, because CSS is intense. You can do incredible things with CSS, and it's a design. It's a design tool largely. You're not gonna set up a network or create a database with CSS. I don't know though. Honestly, maybe you could, but you wouldn't do those things, but it's a design tool, and it's a tremendous design tool. And I think that often people perhaps run out of imagination of what they could be doing with it. And then they're like, oh, well, it's just colors, it's just fonts. And it's just like, okay, whatever, dude. It's not just colors, it's not just fonts. It's the visual appearance of the internet. And as these things become mixed into JavaScript, I think, the expertise with the individual pieces kind of falls away, or you have it in a different way, like you have it inside of JavaScript, not necessarily inside of CSS itself or HTML itself, but it's still there. I mean, this is the fundament of the internet, HTML and CSS, that's the guts of the internet. If you don't understand it, if you don't respect it, you don't understand the web.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point about people that might just think that it's about headers and paragraph tags, but don't have the concept of using maybe the picture element or the figure or any of the other things that you might use along the way, and how to actually articulate that into what something should look like in their head.
Well, I mean, I'd go so far as even to say it's like semantically correct as well as like it's funny how we're so big on with you point out grammar, on how people go through. I mean, in schooling we go through so many years of English, but when we come to being developers, like we're not semantically correct. I see it all the time. People aren't semantically correct in their code, which isn't a big deal when you're playing around. But when you're actually building a real product and or service, and you need it to actually be readable by the end user, by screen readers, be accessible. There's so much involved in that. Like when HTML5 came around, I'm referencing an old site. I don't even know how valid it still is, but HTML5doctor.com. I was amazed by all of the new stuff that came out then at the time, and how you could have an article, then structure the headings inside the article, and the asides could be associated with the article. And that stuff is really interesting. I feel that people miss out by not.
Oh, absolutely. And you bring up a good point about accessibility. I think allowing HTML to fall by the wayside as development moves forward is a huge mistake, because strong fundamentals of HTML is tremendously accessible. A well-constructed HTML page is so much more accessible than a page that's not carefully put together. So those fundamentals, HTML is so important, and it is a little scary to see that kind of fall away. But I think these things go in waves. I think people will start to come back to it and understand how useful it is. It's tough. I know it's tough out there for people who are just HTML and CSS folks, like people who are just focused on those two. You do, I think, realistically need some JavaScript as a developer now, but I mean, those fundamentals are, they're great. I mean, I love them. I love HTML. I love CSS. I always will.
Yeah, I think there are like really great developers out there that primarily focus on HTML and CSS, kind of like Mina Markham, for example, who's made a huge name of herself by doing HTML and CSS. And she's just amazing, right? So I think it's definitely possible to be a powerhouse in and of yourself by just doing HTML and CSS, and kind of like getting a little bit of JavaScript under your belt, for sure. But I think everything that you said is super, super valid. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget SVG. That's another thing.
That's a whole other animal.
That's a whole amazing world. Yeah. The people who are very gifted with SVG blow my mind. I mean, it's just the things that people do with it are tremendous.
Speaking of CodePen and SVGs, there might be a book we could talk about.
There might be.
By somebody. I can't think of who. Brian, you got any ideas?
No,
I don't know.
clue,
I know some guy.
It's something about I forget what it was, but I think SVGs are practical.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Are
Chris Coyer's book, Practical SVG.
Practical SVG. Oh, yeah. I don't.
I'm looking at it right now. Got it in my office.
That's right.
I heard that was cool.
It is cool. I met the guy who wrote it. He's pretty cool.
You know what I wanted to ask you is, could you maybe go a little bit into your day-to-day and tell us what exactly you do? What is the communication part? What is the learning? What is the teaching? How does that work at the CodePens?
So the bulk of my day is spent in this app called Front, which is it's like manages our inboxes for us. It manages our support inbox. It manages our Twitter inbox and all of that. And so what I do for the big part of my day is talk to people who are using CodePen. I take bug reports. I take feature suggestions. I help people out with their subscriptions. I see every single tweet that mentions us, so that's always interesting. Including if you delete your tweet, I'll still see it. Just so you know.
Nice.
Because Front gathers them up for us, and like we can archive them and assign them to each other. So it will gather it even if it's not there anymore. I don't know if they're supposed to do that or not. So shh. But
we won't tell anyone. Don't worry.
I will see a deleted tweet, just so you know. But so I spend a lot of time talking to the people in the CodePen community. We also just very recently set up something in Spectrum, which is it's sort of like a combination between a forum and a social network. It's a very cool kind of chat forum hybrid where we have lots of people from the CodePen community just like helping each other out with coding questions and stuff like that. Because like we at the support desk can't really help people out like step by step with their coding and stuff. It's just not practical from a support perspective. So we thought it would be a good idea to like let people talk to each other and let people help each other out and give each other feedback and stuff like that. And it's been working out fantastically. I've been so proud of our community, how nice everybody is to each other. That was like my biggest concern when I was putting this together. I'm like, man, this better be nice. And actually it's been really great because everybody is very cheerful, very helpful, and they're giving each other really constructive feedback. And it's just, I go in there every day, I take a look and I'm like, I hope everything's cool in there. I better go take a look. And they're all just being so nice to each other. And I'm like, yes, this is so great,
Don't say too much about this. Chris will think your job's easy.
Everybody thinks that a support person's job is easy. That's just how it goes, So not Chris though. Chris knows what I'm up to. Chris knows his stuff. That's why they hired me.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
CodePen seems like such an awesome supportive community as a whole.
Yes.
Even like in the comments, if you post a pen and your pen looks like straight up, garbage with fire on top.
I probably picked that garbage with fire on top. I picked a dumpster fire.
I was gonna say that sounds like a cool CodePen.
I will pick that.
Same. Love it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's next week's challenge. Garbage with fire on top. You heard it here.
No, because somebody already did it and it was perfect. We don't need another.
We need a whole bunch of them.
It's so cool because people will come into the comments and be like, hey, so I see that on line 45 you have this really terrible piece of code, but they say it's so nice, right? You have this kind of funky looking piece of code, so I forked it and fixed that up for you. Here's the link, right? And they're so nice about it. I love it. It's super nice.
I do think that there's a couple of things that are at play there. I think just in general, we've put in the work to attract a supportive community and kind of feature people who are helping out each other and being kind with each other. But also, I think there's also, if you're on CodePen and you're making a comment, you're a CodePen member, right? You can't just randomly comment on CodePen. So you're not going to come in and be like, oh, this is terrible and you suck, and you're the worst developer. Because it's like, what have you ever done? Where's your stuff? Oh, you have nothing. Oh, okay. So you don't come and berate people on CodePen when you've got nothing to back yourself up with, So I think there's a little bit of that too, So, and I like that because it's it's not like on Twitter where you could just people just throw garbage at each other all day, CodePen.
On fire.
Yes. Yeah.
Full circle.
Exactly. So it's a nice vibe, and people, people really respect each other on CodePen. We've been really lucky with that, and we're trying to keep it that way.
Thanks for making that happen, or being a part of making that happen. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, here.
Alrighty. So, Brian, do you have a question?
Do I have a question?
Yes.
Before we get to Brian's question, I wanted to ask.
Yeah, we have some more things.
I want to ask some stuff about your inspiration. I want to know what kind of podcasts you listen to, what kind of sites you go to.
All right.
Maybe some books, people, life.
Yeah. Well,
what's your favorite gummy bear? Mine was the one guy with the hat that bounced around.
Boy, I haven't had a gummy bear in a very long time, I have to say.
There's some good ones now. You can get like organic gummy bears.
I was talking about the gummy bear cartoon, but that's cool. We'll keep it like that.
I don't know. I would have to say I probably like the red ones. I mean, I don't know. I'm not much of a candy eater, to be honest.
What's some podcasts you listen to?
Podcasts. I mean, it's funny. I used to listen to lots of tech podcasts, and then I started doing one, and I was like, I can't listen to tech podcasts anymore. So I listen to RuPaul's podcast. It's so good. It's so fun. It's just it's everything you would imagine RuPaul's podcast would be. It is so good. I love it. I listen to Chapo Trap House, which I know is a little unpleasant, but I laugh every time I listen to that one. It's political and it's rude, but I love it. It's hilarious. And then I listened to one. Oh no, I forget the name of it. It's so goofy. It's a podcast all about etiquette, where very, very, very delicate people write in with their very silly little problems, and these people take them very seriously and answer them very seriously. But it's all like Emily Post type etiquette, So it's like, would it be appropriate for me to send a card to this person when this thing has happened? And they're like, yes, it is appropriate to send a card. And I'm like, yes, I just eat this up. I don't know why.
It's not like a jest. It's just like total serious.
Yes, it's not funny. It's not comedy. They're very seriously taking these very delicate folks' questions.
Please try to remember and send us.
I will send you the link. Yeah, I'll tag us on Twitter. When I get my phone, I'll send you the thing because I love it. It's the funniest. And it's like one of these ones where I just like go back and listen to old ones because they're timeless. It's not about the news.
Evergreen, yeah. Whatever. I need to listen to that on Friday morning driving to work.
Yeah.
Please tell me it's in a British accent or something.
It's not. No, this is Americans. This is like I do think. Yeah.
Wait,
yeah. It's
Americans have etiquette? What?
It's Connecticut,
American
right?
Etiquette.
Connecticut.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I called it.
You got it. Yeah. That's the only place where etiquette really lives. Connecticut etiquette, right?
Connecticut etiquette. That's right. You're from Jersey. I'm from Jersey. We know about the Connecticut.
We know about Connecticut people. That's for sure.
Yeah. You live in Connecticut. Hey, Connecticut.
I totally listened to What the Tea to prepare for this podcast because obviously I literally listened to it all day at work and I didn't know it existed, by the way. And I love drag queens. So the fact that I didn't know this existed makes me really sad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Always have crazy glue in your purse. That should be a thing.
Yes.
Sorry. We're totally talking about
crazy glue in your purse. More tips. Keep going.
Gotta have that and Band-Aids, honestly. But that's a whole other thing.
You can fix shirts. You can
what about some resources, like some sites that you could tell people to go to that you find valuable that they might not know?
So, honestly, I don't think that there's any sites that I find valuable that nobody knows. I'm very much mainstream dev world, CSS tricks, of course. I still read it. Those are my friends. Of course, I'm going to read this.
Heard about that one.
Yeah, Smashing Magazine. Of course, I check that one out all the time. And in terms of support stuff, I read the Help Scout blog. It is so good. They cover all the stuff. So that one, if you are
what's that URL?
Help Scouts. Google Help Scout.
Google.com.
Yeah. But they have a product. They have a support desk product, but their blog is just fantastic tips for anyone who's working in any kind of support. It's great for technical support like what I do. But honestly, if you support anything, at all. If you provide support to customer base, it's very valuable. So I really love that one.
Intercoms is pretty good too.
Yeah, I read that one too. Yeah.
Sorry, what were we going to say, Janelle?
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say anything. I'm good, bro.
Yeah, I'm a designer, but I like to dabble in reading all about like support information, customer service, because I feel like they should be intertwined, and a lot. And I feel like that doesn't maybe happen as much as it should, where customer support's like, hey, they really want this, and the designers are like, well, this move's really awesome. Look at this.
Yeah, there's you have to
yeah.
You have to balance it out though, because you have to have a vision for the product too.
Yeah.
You can't just take every feature request. I've talked about this. I've talked about this on CodePen Radio, but our big, like the big scary concept for us is the Homer car. Have you seen on The Simpsons when Homer designed a car and it's just got like
everything?
Yeah, exactly. So we're not trying to build the Homer car, and you do have to kind of balance out. Like you do have to listen to the people that are using your product. They're the ones who are the most affected by what you do with your product, and they're the ones who use it in, their daily life and their workflow, whatever. So you do need to listen, but you can't take every single suggestion, and you have to really pay attention to what makes sense for the biggest portion of your people, rather than focusing on these very narrow use cases. Especially, I mean, when you have developer tools, use cases are very narrow, workflows are very specific, so you have to make room for flexibility there.
But we want everything.
Well, yeah. Who doesn't want everything?
Hey, Brian, what's this? What's that?
That is a light. What?
What kind of light?
There's a light.
Brian, got a question. Like a spotlight.
Okay. Oh, okay.
What on earth is going on?
That is not a spot. That is not spotlight enough, Roger.
You be quiet and ask your question.
Okay.
Oh dang! Spicy over here.
I'll get him later. So it's time for my question. It's a spotlight question. I like to ask something a little personal. That's what I'm doing this week. My question, and it's a group question, so we're all going to go around. Frederick might skip it; he sometimes does. but
I promise I'll answer.
Oh, maybe not. Something that happened in your life can be when you're young, when you're older, that you went through it and you're like, I didn't die, or oh my God, I can't believe I didn't hurt myself more, or wow, why did I do that? Mine is when I was like, I don't know how, like maybe like 10, and I was climbing. My house was surrounded by oak trees. I loved to climb them. I went to the very top, and I fell all the way down, like from the top of the tree. Like it was a really tall oak tree, like probably twice the distance from the top of the roof of our house, like up high, and like almost landed on the chain link fence. And I have like scars on my legs and my arms, and I didn't break anything, which is amazing. And I of course, being a kid, I still went to the very top of the tree later, but I was scared for like maybe an hour or two.
See, I would have chopped that tree down if you were my kid.
Right? Brian, I hate to tell you this, but we're all part of your coma, and you're waking up now. You're waking up now.
Oh, okay.
Imagine, oh man, I'm sorry. You grew up to be a podcaster.
That's crazy. That's what happens when you fall out of trees.
Mm-hmm. It explains a lot.
I did that full time.
That does explain a lot. Oh my gosh, you're so right. You know how people get their superpowers? There you go.
So who wants to go next?
Janelle?
I can go next.
I saw her raise her hand.
Absolutely. Sure, yeah, I totally raised my hand. It happened.
For our audio listeners.
Mine is also when I was like 10. My mom and I went to a store called Service Merchandise. I don't know if that's like,
I know what that is.
if you guys know. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So there was a service merchandise, and I was looking through telescopes because I'm 10 and very inquisitive about telescopes. And so there were also like 3 other children around, and there was an older girl, and she was not liking her telescope. So she pushed it, and like all of the telescopes fell on top of me. Every single one of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. And so my head actually split open. And blood came down.
Oh God.
Yeah. Which is, again, like not the issue. The issue for me was I thought I was going to die and never have cheesecake again. So my mom, she was like freaking out, like, because there was blood. And I was just like, it's blood, whatever. But I'm not going to have cheesecake. So there's going to be a problem.
Cheesecake.
But I didn't need stitches or anything. I was just like over bleeding for no reason.
I love you as like thinking you as a little kid writing a will, put cheesecake in my coffin.
All I wanted
just in case.
Oh my goodness.
Project?
I'll go next, obviously, because the guest goes last. Let's see. What was the question? What happened near death or something?
Yeah.
Okay. I got one. When I was in like maybe 10 years ago, I was cross training in jiu-jitsu and Okinawa Shuri-ryu, and I was doing this move where somebody grabbed me, and I had to do like this throw, which was called, I think, in the 30 dozen. And I did this throw, and I picked up this guy that was way too big for me, and I ended up hearing like a split on my sides, and I got a double hernia.
Oh no! Oh
yeah.
That was your outfit.
Yeah. So I did something wrong, real wrong.
And then he screamed cheesecake.
And then I was like, I can only just have cheesecake one more time.
Oh my goodness.
It was a sad day. Yeah. So like, I split my shit, and I had to go to the doctor and get double hernia surgery. And I was out of commission for at least like 3 years, like getting like really intense therapy and rolfing. You ever get rolfing massages?
No, but I've heard
what
of
that
it.
is?
Yeah,
it
I do.
Sucks.
I bet
It's where they like really push into your skin, and it's awful. But anyway, that's mine.
Wow. Okay, so like mine's nowhere near that dramatic. I mean, like I've had a kid, so like there's that. But like,
kudos to you.
But this one, honestly, I thought I was gonna die, and as this was happening, I was like, shit. If I go out like this is the dumbest possible way. So this one is a better story. So this, I think, I'm going to say it was 2 or 3 years ago. So I was way too old to do this. But we were at a pumpkin patch, and we went in one of those corn mazes. And they had a portion of it where you'd go through a slide to get from one side to the other. So I'm like, all right. But I had my purse. And so I wanted to make sure that I, didn't stuff my purse up on the way down. So I put my purse on my lap, and I put my hands, and I go through this slide. It's one of those like, big tube slides,
Okay.
Oh, twisty. Yeah.
No, not twisty. No, not straight. It's just like
just
a J.
tube. Got it. Yeah.
Just like a J, And I go shooting out of that thing. Like I catch air at the end, like people, I'm seeing people to both sides, seeing me just flying out. I must have shot out, 10, 15 feet out the end, and like I land so hard, I just dragged. Like I hit my knee, I hit my shoulder, I hit, here, I hit here. And I'm like, and there's a second where I just like land, and I'm like, oh my God, like,
Wow.
what is broken? I'm thinking to myself, but yeah, there was a moment.
My purse okay?
My purse was fine. My purse was fine. Not a scratch on that.
Oh,
She
then
probably like held it up.
2 thumbs up. 2
But
thumbs up.
the whole side of me was just, shred. Like I looked like one of the scarecrows inside the corn maze, the whole side of my outfit all shredded up. And like I didn't break anything. Everything was fine, but I was just like scored down the side from just like coming out sideways out of this thing. It was the dumbest.
Geez.
My kid was aghast. It was just the stupidest thing. And so no, I will never go down that slide again.
It was bad when there was people on each side of you going, oh
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, like, oh my God.
Whoa.
Because I'm just shooting out of there. I'm surprised it wasn't in the paper. Honestly, it was terrible.
Well, that's time to make sure the slide isn't buttered.
Yeah, right.
covered
I
in
know,
butter.
right? It was like that. I came shooting out of it like it was. Oh my goodness, so
Like,
embarrassing.
My favorite part of that story was my kid was aghast.
He was. Well, imagine your mother. You know, my kid was 9 or 10 years old at the time. Imagine your mother comes shooting out of the slide at like 100 miles an hour. So
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. I'm getting that on a sticker. My kid was aghast.
My son, the poor thing, he's aghast a lot because I'm his mom, so you're gonna have to be aghast a whole lot.
Permanent shock face.
Yeah, pretty much.
Speaking of shock,
Oh, you mean
I
like
think
you
it's
got
time for
shocked
a
by
lightning.
yeah.
Oh no.
So I know, right? We're super good at what are those called?
Segways.
Segways.
Those things you ride and you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, what is the name of the thing with the writing?
Oh, I saw. I mean, this is a bad segue because I'm segueing from the segue. But I
That's
saw
a
a YouTube video where Segway now has Segway shoes.
Yeah, they do.
Why?
They're
No.
that's like
Segway shoes,
individual.
$499.
I'm like,
Why?
I would.
What if you
I
lose
don't know. We want to kill
What if
people.
you lose control and you got one going out one way and one going the other way and you're just doing this huge split down the road? Could you imagine?
Can we just call them power skate?
Yeah, don't go down a slide with them.
No, I recommend not going down a slide on a Segway.
Oh
Brian,
my
let's
gosh.
get back on this thing and ride it back towards you
Oh,
now.
right. Like,
Okay.
got it. So this is the lightning question round, right?
Okay.
'Cause we're totally a game show.
Excellent.
We ask you a ton of questions, just kind of really fast.
Okay.
And you just answer them with the first thing that you think of.
Okay,
Sound
cool.
good?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, first question. Who's your favorite drag queen?
Oh my goodness, this is a tough one. I'm gonna have to say, RuPaul, of course. It's like it would be ridiculous to not say that. But of the new group, the new folks that are out now, I'd have to say Cameron Michaels. Cameron Michaels and Ben de la Creme.
I
Ben de
love
la
that.
Creme. Yes.
Acceptable choices.
Yes.
Favorite thing about yourself?
Favorite thing about myself?
You.
I'm a good cook. Real good cook.
Nice.
Coffee or tea?
Both. I like them both equally. I'll take either.
What color is your favorite shirt?
Black.
Favorite hero and or heroine?
We talking like superheroes?
No, we're talking about anybody in the industry or out of the industry, just a real person.
Okay, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is a real person. Acceptable. Ding, 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 Brian.
Favorite cereal?
Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man doesn't have a cereal. No.
Actually,
does.
there was.
Does he?
Don't
Okay.
dare Kellogg's. They'll make one.
I like Life cereal. It's very good.
What is your one can't live without item?
Lip balm.
Most valuable takeaway from Oprah Winfrey's magazine.
Oh wow. You know what? Accept yourself as you are.
Thank you, Oprah.
What's your dessert of choice?
Ooh boy, that's a tough one. I can't answer this one. Apple pie. There we go.
Yummers.
Favorite kind of shoe?
Favorite kind of shoe? Toms. I'm not a shoe person, honestly.
Favorite HTML tag.
I love figure caption. Fig cap. Fig caption.
Nice. I like
the
doing
name.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
So do you put whipped cream or ice cream on that apple pie?
Well, yes, but I actually make my own whipped cream because I'm vegan. So I make it with coconut. Yep.
Cool. Dogs or cats?
I own cats. I have 2 wonderful cats who I love very much, but I think dogs are fantastic too. I love everybody's pets.
If you walked in your house and it was midnight and you saw a ghost, what would you do?
I would probably figure out which one of my relatives it was because I'm sure one of them would be haunting me.
Good choice.
Pizza toppings of choice. Very
Um,
food oriented right now.
Pizza, honestly, I just like it plain You know, but if I'm having something on it, I like to have artichoke hearts or hot peppers.
What is your favorite alcohol of choice?
I don't drink anymore, but when I did, I liked beer and champagne, the bubbly stuff.
Favorite part about CSS?
Oh man, the colors and the fonts, of course.
What's your favorite conference that you've been to?
Oh, I haven't been to a whole lot of conferences. I was at Converge SE a couple of years ago in South Carolina, and that was lovely.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Do you like for Frederick to ask you other questions about inspiration?
Sure, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I heard that.
What inspires you?
What inspires me? Honestly, art of any type. You know, I love to go to museums and just absorb any sort of visual art, but I love to watch dance. I love music. You know, just people expressing themselves with art is the most inspiring thing to me in the world ever.
I got a follow-up to that.
Okay.
So give me some bands. What kind of bands you like? What kind of music?
Man, well, this could go on forever. I mean,
I don't want to go on forever. Just a minute.
I mean, like my very, very favorite, you could maybe see the poster behind me, is The Cure. That's my favorite ever.
Oh, yeah. Let's start talking about Cure lyrics back and forth. You ready?
Oh, man.
This Friday.
I'm in love. Oh, come on. You're never going to stump me on that.
What kind of garden?
What? The Hanging Garden.
Dang, you are good. Authentic.
You cannot stump me. I'm an old-time goth, please.
Oh, dude, yeah. I've been to almost I think 27 Cure concerts. So, yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Hang on. Wait, 27? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I sure did.
0.5.
Take a 2 and then you put a
0.5.
7 next to it.
I am so jealous. I've seen them. I've seen them twice. I saw them once in 1996, I think.
Oh, well, then you must be jelly. What?
Yes, I am. And
I
then
saw those guys a bunch.
And then I saw them in 2016, so it was a big gap in between. Man, I am jealous. Now I'm mad.
I love me some Cure. I'm Robert Smith all day.
Our guest Matt, Frederick. Jeez.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, I love The Cure. But
favorite Cure song?
Favorite?
Favorite Cure album. Are we going back to 17 seconds?
Frederick, you're hogging.
It's gonna have to be.
I'm sorry.
You know, I'd guess it would have to be Disintegration, but that's a tough one. Disintegration or The Top. Honestly, I love The Top. Nobody loves The Top, but I love The Top.
I love 17 seconds. It's just
that's a
so
good one, but I like Faith better out of that era.
Oh, yeah. No, okay, yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, there's so many good songs off of Disintegration. Did you listen to the remastered one?
Of course.
Good. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you guys. Now I know what not to get Frederick talking about.
The Cure?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a dangerous topic with me too, honestly.
The Christmas lights, remember from the summer.
Oh no.
Ryan got some more questions.
Yeah.
I did.
I don't know what happened there.
Are those words?
Don't listen.
I was going more Cure. I also just drank a Harvey Wallbanger, so there you go. Boom.
Okay.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
What's your comfort food?
Comfort food? Oh, wow. It would have to be rice and beans. White rice, black beans.
Oh, nice.
I mean, same.
That'll do it for me.
All right, I think I'm done. I've checked out of the lightning rounds. I don't know.
I do whatever you do. So if you're done, you're done. We're done. Yeah. So hey, how is the best place that people could get a hold of you? First off,
I'm on Twitter a whole lot. I don't tweet a lot, but I read a lot of tweets. So I'm around.
And what's the handle?
It's M Mosley. MMOSLEY. That's
and obviously we'll put lots of links to that.
Mosley.
And since we're just about at the end, we love to ask our guests if you have any kind of final words of wisdom, any kind of things that you would like to benevolently bestow upon our audience. The stage is yours.
Well, I think probably I will have to take a page from Oprah and say that you should love yourself and accept yourself as you are.
Did you hear that, Brian?
Yeah, I have a mirror, so I just say that to myself. So,
excellent.
yeah.
Good. That's a good way to start your day.
I love that. That's adorable.
Y'all are
Brian's
so
aggressively
cute.
adorable.
Aggressively adorable.
I mean, second.
Oh.
I'm seconding that.
Yeah,
Y'all
exactly,
are-
right?
Everybody's adorable. Look at all of you.
Everyone.
All.
All of us
adorable.
are adorable.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Frederick made the most adorable look. You should watch the video stream.
Yes, if you're listening to the audio. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show. We
Well,
super
thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it. Yeah, I know the time just kind of goes here, there. Look at it snapping.
I was
Yeah,
on
it's been
CodePen
great.
Radio.
Thank you so much.
Wait, what'd you say, Brian?
I said I felt like I was on CodePen Radio for a moment there with her. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, Janelle, you got any final words?
Nah, I'm good. I think everything's great. I
Cool,
mean,
good.
do you have
I'll
any
ditto
words?
that. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and or listening. And please subscribe to our show. Go to thundernerds.io/review. Give us a review. And thank you, Pantheon, for sponsoring this episode. Toodles and noodles, everybody.
Yeah, everyone.
This
Bye.
is where it's at.